everybody.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us for our Women's History Month celebration. My name is Kevin. I am the Deputy Director of External Affairs, and I present to you your Illinois State Comptroller, Susana Mendoza.
Good morning, everybody. It's wonderful to be here again. Thank you all for making the trip. Women's History Month is such a wonderful time to honor the brave and remarkable women who came before us, paving the way for the women of today to reach new heights. We've got great ladies here and a gentleman who snuck in. I'm kidding. No. Today I want to celebrate with you the women who are leaders, business owners, and scholars. It's you who fight each day to be everything to everyone, to shatter the glass ceiling and serve as a role model to all the little girls with big dreams. I know the struggle all too well, having to go up against the boys, working and living in a male-dominated society, sometimes not being taken seriously. But you know what? I never gave up. I started playing soccer, as many of you know, when I was a little kid, around 7 and 8 years old. Most of my youth, I was the only girl on all boys teams. And it wasn't until I got to high school that I thought about playing on girls' teams, but we didn't have a girls' team. So I was happy to be able to be the founding member of the girls' team in our high school in Bolingbrook High School. But that fight that I had in me growing up helped to keep me motivated as I was elected to be the youngest member of the General Assembly back in the 92nd General Assembly, then the first female city clerk of Chicago, and now as the first independently elected Hispanic in a statewide office. I've really, truly cherished all of my roles, and I hope to inspire other women, no matter what they're seeking, that they go for it. But today is not about me. It's about you and your amazing accomplishments. I'd like to tell you a little bit about each of our honorees and have them come up, take a photo, and say a few words. So in case you were wondering if you're speaking, yes, you are. And don't be shy, because I know none of you are. But I'm going to say a little bit about how fabulous you all are. Then we're going to step off to the side here. I'll give you a recognition, a little certificate. We'll take a really nice photo there. And then you'll be asked to come say a few words. So that's how it'll work. And then at the end of all of this, we'll ask you to stay, because we're going to take pictures individually with you or your family. And then we'll take one of the whole entire group as well. It'll be very nice. Okay? So that's the plan. First up is Alicja Otap. Alicja is the editor-in-chief for the Polish Daily News, the oldest and largest Polish language newspaper in the United States. She's been a journalist for Polish language media outlets in Chicago since 1984, covering everything from local politics to social and economic issues. Alicja also tackles concerns directly affecting the Polish American community. She has interviewed many politicians, dignitaries, and other leaders over her nearly 40-year career and has received many awards and recognitions for her work. Alicja is a member of the Polish National Alliance and other groups. Now, Alicja hasn't really always been a journalist. News has been her second career, as a matter of fact. She was born and raised in Warsaw, Poland, and graduated from the University of Warsaw with a master's degree in applied clinical psychology. She worked as a clinical psychologist in both Poland and the United States, and I'm sure that experience came in very handy when you were interviewing politicians. Now, Alicja and her husband Richard have 3 adult children. She loves spending holidays with family, traveling, music, reading, and I love this about her, is a certified Swiftie, as am I. So Alicja, please come up. Thank you so much. Please say your turn to say a few words. Yes.
Thank you. I have a few remarks prepared.
Excellent.
Which will be easier for me. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, Madam Controller, Susana Mendoza, distinguished guests. I'm very honored to receive this award from Madam Controller, Susan Susana Mendoza, who is a trailblazer and inspiration for all women. And I'm very honored to receive this award on behalf of all women that are employed by Polish Daily News, Dziennik Związkowy, the oldest Polish language newspaper published since 1908 without any interruption. Madam Controller, Susana Mendoza, again, thank you very much. I'm really touched and privileged by this award as we recognize Women's History Month. As I reflect on my near 40 years with the newspaper, I remember it being dominated by men, and now most employees are women. World is changing in my workplace and everywhere, but still women have big obstacles ahead of them. This is the reason for which this is important to observe International Women's Day and Women's History Month. By doing this, we underscore women's accomplishments and struggles. Thank you again, Madam Controller, and thank you all for listening, and have a beautiful day.
Dziękuję. Okay, we're moving on. Anybody hungry? Yes, if you are, you're going to love our next honoree. That's Chef Beverly Kim. Chef Beverly Kim, I should say, has risen through the ranks of Chicago's restaurant scene to become one of the city's most acclaimed and recognized chefs. She's been awarded the prestigious James Beard Award, making her one of the few women of color to receive the distinction. Beverly is also a TV star. If you're a Top Chef fan, you may remember her as a contestant on the show back in 2011. Beverly and her husband Johnny, who is also a chef, co-own the Michelin-starred Parachute restaurant in Chicago. And while Parachute is closing this month, keep an eye on the space as the couple develops a new concept sure to wow the dining crowd. Also check out Analia, the Ukrainian restaurant that the pair opened last year. The restaurant industry was one of the hardest hit during the pandemic, but that didn't stop Beverly. She started the nonprofit organization, The Abundance Setting, to address gender inequality in the culinary and hospitality fields, supporting women and working moms who are trying, once again, to do it all. The group was named the Best New Industry Resource of 2020, and just a year later, Beverly was named one of the Chicagoans of the Year for her efforts. Beverly is the daughter of Korean immigrants, and she and Johnny have 3 sons. She is super cool, and I am very, very happy to have her here today to recognize her achievements. Come on up, Beverly. Okay, here we go. Take a cute picture. Like that.
Wow, I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much. This is like kind of a dream come true. This means a lot to a girl who is the fourth of 4 daughters who was told they were born only because he needed a son. My parents wanted a son. And I think my whole life I always questioned my value and always questioned why I existed, as a girl and subliminally told that women are to take a second class seat. And I want to first thank all the people who have supported me and encouraged me to have confidence in myself and see the bigger picture. And I also want to thank all the people who challenged me, because I actually think about it, and it's all the people who said I couldn't do it because of A, B, and C, that I want to thank them too, because it gave me the passion to prove them wrong. Mm-hmm. So if I can say anything to girls coming up, is that you're going to be met with challenges and be thankful for them, because they're going to make you stronger, and you're going to have the will to prove them wrong, because the feeling of proving people wrong is so amazing. But also, it would be so nice to not have to do that, and get to that point where we don't have to. And, my husband's here, so I want to thank him for being a great chef partner in life. And I'm just blessed and honored and humbled, and just want to say thank you for this acknowledgement, and I will continue to do the hard work and still keep breaking records for people. Thank you.
She's so great. And we've all had, I think any woman in this room, and all of us, frankly, we've all had people who have told us what they don't think we can achieve. Encourage you even when you're in school to drop that class because you're never going to pass it, or maybe you should change your major, or whatever it may be. None of this happened to me, by the way, but I'm just saying the other stuff did. I did have a teacher who once told me to drop a class, but it did motivate me, and I didn't drop it, and I ended up that was my first B, but like in a class that I was supposed to fail, and I feel like I nailed it. Even though I didn't get an A, I got a B. It was probably one of the greatest achievements for me to be able to prove that instructor wrong, right? And so we've all had, whether it's something that small or something much bigger, people in our lives. And sometimes it's people who are supposed to love us the most, right? And maybe they tell us those things because they don't want to see us fail. But you have to be willing to fail in order to succeed big, right? And I always think that I owe more to the people who didn't believe in me sometimes than I even do to those who cheered you on, right? Because it's those that tell you can't do it that really light that fire in your belly to prove them wrong, as you said, Beverly. So I totally, very much identified with what you said. And thank you again for your wonderful leadership and for your amazing food, because it is great. I've been there, I've eaten there, and I loved it. Okay, our next honoree is China Hampton, Equity Director for Climate Jobs Illinois. Throughout her career, China has fought for diversity, equity, and inclusion, aiming to make sure everyone has the opportunity and access to training and good jobs. As Equity Director for Climate Jobs Illinois, China is working to expose more people to the exciting and growing clean energy industry and help them learn valuable skills that will lead to a solid union career. The group is a coalition of labor organizations advocating for pro-worker, pro-climate agenda here in the great state of Illinois. Hampton also serves on the board of directors for the Illinois Economic Policy Institute, continuing her mission of promoting economic growth for businesses and working families, as well as the board for Chai Gives Back, an effort to pay it forward in underserved communities with programs to help teachers pay for classroom supplies, send kids to prom, and provide senior citizens and senior centers with warm meals. Prior to her role with CJI, China was the Director of Workforce Development at Hire 360, partnering with the Chicagoland's construction unions, developers, and general contractors to develop DEI initiatives on projects in the Chicago area and to connect workers to jobs in the construction industry. China earned her master's in public administration from Walden University and her bachelor's in sociology at the University of Illinois at Chicago. She lives in Chatham with her 2 children, and during her free time enjoys singing and volunteering with organizations that assist Chicago residents facing food insecurity. She's a rock star, and we are very pleased to have her here and get to honor you today, China. Please come on up. There you go. This way, and then tilt it a little forward so you can see it. Okay, please.
Getting a little emotional. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Comptroller Susana Mendoza, for this award. Not bad for a girl from the south side of Chicago. Thank you to my family and friends for being here. I'd also like to thank Tim Dre and Pat Devaney at the Illinois AFL-CIO. Thank you for always being committed to furthering my equity work and supporting my craziest ideas. Thank you to our team at Climate Jobs. I'm so happy to see how far we've come and excited about work for our future. And last but certainly not least, thank you to the Illinois fierce and mighty labor leaders. Your unending support and advocacy for working people is the reason that I do what I do every day. And I have the ability to wave the equity flag in Illinois, across the state of Illinois. Thank you guys for this. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you, China. She's a fierce one there. She is. I mean, and she absolutely works in a male-dominated field and nonetheless has risen to the top. Tim Dre, who's the president of the AFL-CIO, just thinks the absolute world of her, that she is an absolute shooting star, not even a rising star. She's shooting, and she's going to keep shooting on up. So great to have you here. Now, our next honoree is Dr. Cheryl Green. Dr. Cheryl Green is the 6th president of Governor State University. Go Jaguars. And it is, yes. And I just have to say that it is wonderful anytime I get to say Madam President. Yes. Her professional experience in higher education spans more than 30 years. Before leading Governor State, she served in various roles in the University of Wisconsin system and at Tennessee State University. Dr. Green is a passionate educator who fiercely believes in the power of education to change lives. She's pioneered academic success initiatives to help keep students in school, as well as boost graduation rates, focusing especially on first-generation and non-traditional college students. Her commitment to making a difference has also included serving on numerous advisory boards and boards of directors. Dr. Green has received several honors, including the Outstanding Commitment to in Education Award, and was recognized by the Cook County Board of Commissioners for her accomplishments as the first African American woman to lead the university. She was also named a 2023 Business Leader of Color by Chicago United. Dr. Green holds a PhD and master's degree in counseling psychology from Southern Illinois University. Go Salukis. That's right. And has a bachelor's degree in psychology from Manchester University in Indiana. We don't talk about Indiana here. She has 2 adult children who she says constantly keep her inspired to believe in the worth and potential of all human beings, and 2 adult children that I'm sure have benefited from the role model of their amazing mother. So please come on up.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you for all you do. There you go. We'll move a little this way. Okay, and then tilt it that way. Excellent. Please.
The iconic civil rights leader Rosa Parks sat down so that I could stand up.
Okay. Yeah.
And I stand up for education. Education is the answer. Education is a tool for economic empowerment and social mobility. Nelson Mandela said that education is the most powerful weapon that you can use to change the world. And I am so proud to be an education change agent. I've had over 33 years in higher ed, and every day I am blessed to have the job that I have. I believe in the infinite power and potential of all human beings, and I give honor and praise to anyone who works for inclusiveness and diversity and equity in education and in all fields of government and business. I look forward to each day where I can help a student transform their lives, because that is what education does. And I want to thank the Illinois State Comptroller, Susan Mendoza, for her leadership and for her service to the state of Illinois. She is the trailblazer that is bringing us together today, and I want to thank you for that. I am very grateful. I want to continue my journey. I want all of you to go on this journey with me, because education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. Thank you.
Thank you. That was awesome. Was your father a preacher?
My grandfather.
I knew it. It's something in there. Yep, it was awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Green. Our next recipient, unfortunately, was not able to make it today, but she is so awesome that we're gonna talk about her. I've got to say, she is probably a woman after my own heart, enjoying financial matters and trying to make them more understandable to everyone, and that is the one and only Olga Camargo. Now, with over 2 decades of experience in the financial services industry, Olga advocates for culturally relevant financial services, carving a niche to help members of diverse communities build wealth. She's a partner and a co-head of Faro Advisory at Centric Wealth Management, LLC, providing invaluable retirement planning services to a wide range of clients, including business owners, executives at not-for-profit entities, and foundations. Beyond her role at Faro Advisory, Olga is an entrepreneur, founding and heading the financial wellness app Shinix. It's designed to help Latinas make the best informed money decisions, meet financial goals, invest, buy a home, and plan for retirement. Olga is also the first Latina chair of Northeastern Illinois University's Foundation Board and the Emeritus Board Chair of the Hispanic Alliance for Career Enhancement. Through her work and active involvement in various boards and councils, Olga has really built a reputation as a trailblazer in the financial services industry and as a champion of diversity and empowerment. Olga earned her Bachelor of Science and Master of Arts from the University of Illinois at Chicago. Juan Carlos Avila, right over there, co-head of Faro and president of Shinix, is here to accept the award in Olga's honor. But before I say, usually it's like behind every great man is a great woman, right? This is the opposite today. But no, she's amazing. She's truly amazing. But come on up, Juan, please. Thanks. Thank you. Please do her justice.
I shall. I'll do my best. Thank you so much. I'm not Olga Camargo, clearly, but I do want to add to that. I heard someone once say, behind every great man is a great woman rolling her eyes.
Oh, that's
I took that over. But I will say that, like many of the men that are here, we are probably here really supported by very, very strong women in our lives that have sacrificed a great deal. That includes, my mom, my grandmother. I have 3 teenage daughters who are certified Swifties as well, and soccer players, by the way. But Olga Camargo is definitely one of them in my life. And Olga grew up in a little village here in Chicago. She worked at her mother's bridal shop and quinceañera shop, and she was top salesman who would come in after school and help upsell on the quinceañera dresses to all her friends. But also that she has just an amazing grit and determination, and I respect her so much for that. I grew up and probably like many of us, had to get braces, and for me, my dad was in the military. It was just something that was kind of part of what we had. And Olga had shared a story with me that when she grew up, she needed braces, and she went to her parents, and her dad was like, "No, mijita, you have a beautiful smile. You don't need braces. You're fine." And she's like, "Well, I really need them." So she went out and got a job and paid for that herself as a teenager. And I think about something like that just speaks to who she is as a person, as someone who really stands up for herself and for others. And running a wealth management business, Olga came to me about 1.5 years ago and said, because we deal a lot with financial literacy, and a lot of our clients have members of our community who are not empowered with education around finances and investments. And she said, we need to do more than just, when we're at these meetings. And that's where she was inspired to come up with the idea behind building a financial literacy app called Shinix, which you mentioned. So I know Olga's very honored, and I know she wishes she was here. I'll need to send a copy of that picture to her while she's on the beach so that she knows that we were here. But thank you very much for this, and Olga thanks you as well.
And just tell her I'm super jealous she's on the beach. Yes. Okay, our last honoree, last but not least, and unfortunately she's not in attendance either, but I'm going to talk a ton about her. And the person that's here to receive an award on her behalf could very well be sitting in that seat on her own, right? She's amazing, and Jill, you're just awesome. But in any event, let me talk about Susan Hayes Gordon. Her name is Susan. I call her Susie because I just love her so much. But she's the Senior VP and Chief External Affairs Officer at Anne and Robert H. Lurie Children's Hospital of Chicago. Now, Susan Hayes Gordon, as I said, she couldn't be here, but I really, really want to share some words about her. She's been with Lurie Children's Hospital of Chicago for more than 3 decades, back when it was called Children's Memorial Hospital. I sometimes still catch myself calling it Children's, but it is Lurie Children's Hospital of Chicago. She was there for over 30 years, providing leadership in government and community relations, media relations, policy, marketing communications, and most recently as one of 2 executive leaders who led the development and execution of Lurie's Behavioral Health Strategic Plan. Susan and her team work to enhance the health and well-being of children, influence children's health policy, and government funding that comes in. Susan enjoys and knows the power of working collaboratively with colleagues inside and outside of the hospital, bringing together top experts to build successful advocacy campaigns for children. Her relationships with policymakers and community leaders are long-standing and strong, and she's deeply grateful for the ways that they have helped to carry the undertaking of a hospital charged with providing more pediatric Medicaid care to children in Illinois than any other hospital. They are truly doing God's work at Lurie. Susan is also a Leadership Greater Chicago Fellow, and she serves on the boards of directors of the Civic Federation of Chicago and the Magnificent Mile Association. Susan and her husband of 34 years, Tom, are grateful to be parents of Annie, Jack, Patrick, and Matt, daughter-in-law Georgia, daughter-in-law to be Sarah, and a first grandchild that's on the way. I know, I'm so excited. So please tell her congrats. And since Susan isn't here, Lurie VP of Government Relations, Jill Fragos, will accept the award on her behalf. But before that happens, I do want to say Jill and Susan are 2 of the greatest people you'll ever meet in your life. I actually, when I think of Lurie Children's, I think of Susie Gordon. I obviously of you too, Jill, but she's synonymous to me with the hospital itself, right? Presidents have come and gone. We now have a new president. It used to be Pat Magoon. Now it's Tom. But I think if I ever need to call the hospital for anything, I need to talk to Susie Gordon. She is the person who gets everything done. She is the person who knows everyone. She's the person who has dedicated her life to literally saving children's lives. And when I was a state representative, seems like 30 years ago, but it wasn't. It was 22 years ago or something. Whatever. In 2001, I met Susie Gordon because there was a story back then about a little girl who had been denied hospital care for a liver transplant. And she had fought very hard to get, she was undocumented, so she had fought very, very hard to get the hospital to do, or a hospital, anyone, to give her a liver transplant. And a little, I think was she Mexican?
She was.
Yeah. And it was super tragic. And I was a brand new state representative. I had read this story and I was super mad that why are people letting this little girl die, right? There are charity cares that are available at hospitals. We should help this little child. And that was the week that I met the people from Children's Memorial. And I remember talking to Susie Gordon and I probably was not as nice as I normally am. And I was this is horrible. I hate reading a story about a little girl who's being denied because she doesn't have, legal documentation. It's not right. There should be something that could be done to help. Long story short, they looked into it. Eventually, this little girl got help through Children's Memorial back then. And I became a big super fan of the hospital because they stepped up where others wouldn't. And then soon after that, I called them because I don't think I've ever told this story publicly, but I'm going to today because it's such an important story. I had met many years before I was a state representative, a little girl called Myra Santa Cruz. She was the brightest light in any room, just amazing, full of life, full of love, just the best kid. And she had leukemia. And I had heard about her through the news because, like this other little girl, but this is years later, but before when I was not in politics, I had heard about her, and there was a telethon, or on TV, the TV stations covered that she needed a bone marrow transplant. That was what was supposed to happen. But eventually, thankfully, this little girl went into remission. But I met her, and I fell in love with her. And I was young still at the time, but I never had a little sister, and I saw her as like a little sister to me, the closest thing. And so I just kept in touch with her. And then later on, I became a state representative. And then I meet the people at Lurie Children's, or at Children's Memorial. But then I get a call from her mom one day, and she's now 14 years old. And she's beautiful, was doing modeling, had really a great life up until that point, but had come down with like a cold, and then came down with another one within like a week or two of the first one. So her mom, of course, took her to the doctor. She'd been in remission for years. So they thought she was in the clear, but it turns out that she had a relapse of leukemia, and the second one came on even stronger. And so at that point, I am now a sitting state representative, but Myra is undocumented. She has a little sister who was born in the United States, who is documented, who has access to health care, but because of her undocumented status, she had none. And so if her sister had been the one to get sick, she would have had the health care that she needed. But because Myra was undocumented, yet grew up here her entire life, was brought here as a baby, and didn't really know any, had no history to Mexico. Her entire life was here. She was American for everything you can imagine, except her legal status. She had no health care. And her parents, you can imagine as a mom or dad of a child that you love with all your heart, how horrible it would be to be told that there's nothing you can do because of money, right? And so I was just horrified, but I reached out to Susie Gordon, and Jill, you were there at the time, and I said, is there anything that could be done for this child? Anything. Like, I know that the hospital has a charity program. Is there anything that could be done? I would be so grateful, because no mother should have to see their kid die because they didn't have access to good health care. So I'm getting emotional. But long story short, they stepped up, and they put not just any doctor, but the head of the oncology department to lead Myra's case. I remember that the BBC even came in to cover this as a story just about what happens in the United States of America with children who are undocumented. And I remember sitting in a conference room where they're asking a 14-year-old little girl to decide if she has to be put on life support. Does she want to stay on it? Or what are her choices for her end-of-life care, right? Hopefully she'll beat this, but we don't know. And then it was, how do we find a match and all these things? And luckily enough, she did find a match in New York City, I believe it was, some stranger who gave their bone marrow, and she had the transfusion, or I should say the transplant. And those first 100 days are like the toughest, right? Any little tiny thing could make this go south, because they have no immune system when you do a bone marrow transplant. And Myra almost made it, but then she came down with a viral infection, and she just couldn't beat it, right? So she passed away. It was heartbreaking for all of us. The hospital, all of us were crying all the time when we were talking about Myra and seeing what she went through. But the crazy part about this, and the silver lining in this, is that Myra's parents could go on with their life, even with the loss of this child, which was an immeasurable loss and heartache. But they knew that she didn't die because they didn't have enough money to give her the best care. They literally got the best care in the world with Dr. Klutzel and with the staff who just adored her at Children's Memorial. And ironically, or I don't know if it's just divine providence, but Myra's mom got pregnant during this whole ordeal and ended up having a little girl soon after Myra passed away. And that little girl today is the spitting image of her sister. I mean, they look the same, they talk the same, their personalities are the same. It's as if she came back to life. But I can never thank you enough, Jill and Susie and the hospital, for what that meant to me. So I love you. Come on.
Yeah. Susan, you're full of the
They're like superstars, rock stars, and just angels, literally on earth. So
Thank you.
we gotta get this picture. Yeah, I just want to hear you talk because you're so amazing. Okay. Oh, it's hers. So there's nothing I would not do for Lurie Children's because they're the best.
Yes.
And so anytime you hear a telethon, give money, please.
Okay. It's really hard to follow that. Oh my goodness. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Madam Comptroller, for everything. As the Comptroller said, my name is Jill Fragus, and I'm here to accept this very special award for my boss, Susan Gordon. She is so sad to miss this, but she had to be in Washington, D.C. She's with our CEO, and they had some meetings planned on Capitol Hill. But Susan did ask me to read her remarks. So that's what I'm going to do. I cannot be here in person with all of you for this very beautiful ceremony, which is a great honor for all who have been recognized by Comptroller Susana Mendoza during Women's History Month. To my fellow awardees, Olga, Cheryl, Beverly, Alicia, China, congratulations. I'm truly honored to be in your company. I've had the great privilege of working at Children's Memorial Hospital, now Lurie Children's, for 36 years, working in government and community relations, media relations, marketing communications, and behavioral health advocacy. In preparing for today, I've been thinking about the great women who influenced my path. Sally Hayes, my dear mother, would always engage others with her great reverence, giving them her total attention and care, looking right into their eyes. Honey Skinner, a brilliant lawyer and lobbyist from Sidley and Austin, taught me when we were both young not to be afraid to ask questions. You can't solve problems if you don't understand what they are. She also encouraged me to apply for Leadership Greater Chicago, where I met the late Marca Bristow, the former Commissioner of Disability for the City of Chicago and founder of Access Living. Marca's life story after an accident that left her a paraplegic taught me that no matter what comes our way in life, we have to carry on. We have to put on new glasses, never be bitter, and fight for what people need. These women and so many others have helped me to grow and do my favorite thing: bring people together, people of integrity who are expert, hardworking, and fun to work to enhance health, safety, and well-being of our children in collaboration with others who can influence policy. In 2001, I met the youngest member of the General Assembly, then 26-year-old Susana Mendoza. She was advocating for a very sick little girl, Myra, and you just heard that really special story. Representative Mendoza at the time was fierce in her advocacy. She understood that children lack voice, power, and money to influence public policy. She became one of Lurie Children's greatest defenders. She sponsored and championed many bills for kids. When our hospital decided to move to Streeterville, we faced opposition building our life-saving heliport. State Representative Susana Mendoza wrote a letter, and she got 150 legislators, I'll never forget this, for both parties from the House and the Senate. And she got everyone to sign it. And that really helped us get this heliport. She's a force and a loyal champion for everyone in need. Lurie Children's is so lucky to know her and to fight with her and others for children and for the strength of our institution so we can continue to care for sick and injured children and train the next generation of healthcare providers, do research and discovery, and collaborate within communities to advance health equity. The mission only works if we carry it all together. It's a treasure that we must safeguard for generations to come. You may have read recently that we had a cyber security attack, and it was really challenging on our organization. We had a lot of people reach out and ask us for help. But I remember Susan called me minutes after Comptroller Mendoza, one of the first people who reached out to say, how can we help you? All these difficulties, we were able to continue to see 3,000 kids a day and continue to have our hospital mostly full while all of our systems were offline. So in closing, I just want to say thank you, Comptroller Mendoza, for this great honor, which is really a tribute to all of my colleagues and external stakeholders who've helped us fight for kids over the last 36 years. Thank you for the care and love you show for children, their parents, and guardians who need them, and count on Lurie Children's to care for them so that they can have peace of mind like Myra's parents. Because when a child hurts, the whole family hurts. Thank you.
Okay, so again, I want to just thank everybody for coming. Here, this goes to Susie. Yep. For the work and the leadership that you all show each and every day, and for proving that women can indeed do it all. We can do it all. I'm going to close with a favorite quote of mine, since Doctor, you had your multiple awesome quotes. And it is Women's History Month, and that's why we're all here. But one of my fearless champions, or I should say, a dear friend, but someone who is like legendary and iconic in status to me, and I think many, certainly Hispanic women, is Dolores Huerta. And she is, everyone knows who Cesar Chavez is, but there would be no Cesar Chavez without the work of Dolores Huerta. And she was always the behind the scenes, but really the fighter, and the si se puede, that whole thing came from her. It was her coining this term, si se puede, yes, we can. But she used to think that it was rude for her to take credit for the work that she did in the workers' rights movements, in the civil rights, labor rights, women's rights, because it was, a lack of not being, it was essentially not being humble. It was more important to be humble than to take credit for her work. But I think after decades of seeing her work be invisible, right, which was so powerful, the actual consequences of her work, but the work be invisible, all the men were the ones who get the credit for everything, she realized that this wasn't about her, but it was about what her work signified for other women, right? What kind of doors would open for other women, and what doors were being closed because of her decision to be humble about her actual achievements. And so with time, her mentality shifted, and I'm glad it did, because my favorite quote of hers is that we as women need to take credit for our accomplishments and not feel egotistical when doing so, because it's the only way to let the world know that we're capable of achieving amazing things. And so I think all of these women have achieved amazing things. I think it's important that we acknowledge them for their work, and also that you own the accomplishments that you've done, because they haven't come easily. And while it's incredible for you, each and every one of us have a cool story of potentially being a first, right, or breaking a barrier. It's not just us breaking it, but allowing that to stay open for the next generation, all the other little girls who might be thinking that they can't, or have someone telling them that they can't. They can see themselves reflected in our successes, and us talking about what these successes really mean for the world, right? So congratulations again. Thank you for joining us. And I will invite everybody, when we're done taking photos, to the 10th floor, where we have a female-owned restaurant called Jibaritos, who has catered our event for today. So, all right, thank you all for being here.